the relationship that we have with ourselves shows up in the relationships with other people. And if we already know that we are enough and that our needs are valid, the possibilities are endlessly exciting.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. Does it ever feel like you've got two options in life? Number one is to be single and to take care of all of your needs yourself. And number two is to find some guy and hope that he's capable of fulfilling at least a few of your needs. And you know, how well has that worked out for you? I think the older you get, the better you get at meeting your own needs. And you have the life experience to recognize that relationships have their limitations. Men have their place, but they also have their limits. And you need a lot more in life to be happy. So are there other ways of having relationships that can meet our needs better? Or are we stuck with either being on our own or tying ourselves to a man who may or may not be enough? That is the question that I wanted to ask our guest for today, Sue Sutherland. Sue is a trauma-informed bodyworker. She is a somatic sex educator, and she is a relationship coach who helps women understand their relationship needs and get those needs met in creative and out-of-the-box ways. She's also an expert in authentic relationships, and I can't wait to figure out what those are. Welcome, Sue.
Yay! Oh, it feels great just to hear that, that we can think differently and we can do this differently, right?
And one of the ironies, of course, as I've said, is that, my site really has a lot of love and relationships. And, we really stick to that, find a man, get married, live happily ever after. And so I am so excited to be exploring some alternatives with you. And I wanted just to start out by talking to you about your next book. So you're an author, and your next book coming out is going to be called Tales of Nonconformity, a manifesto for being unapologetically you. So why nonconformity?
Well, first of all, I love the name because that just, for me, is like, that's where I want to go. And the thing is, I didn't plan to be a nonconformist. I tried so hard to fit in. And what I learned from a very young age, actually, is that the things I thought about and the things I said and the things I wanted, they weren't okay. They weren't okay with like the people around me and society. And so, I kind of put that inside of me and I tried really hard to fit in. And I tried so hard to fit in that I forgot who I was. And I lost myself.
Yeah.
And the discomfort of pretending to be somebody else just became unbearable. And I realized that I am betraying myself. And I think this is really interesting because I've thought for quite a long time, this, when people have midlife crisis, it's like, that for me is the container breaking. It's you know what? I have stuffed the real me in and down so much that, you know what? I can't hold it in anymore. And what I see is people suddenly having this midlife crisis and doing the things they really want to do. And when they do, we basically call them out on like, oh, they're having a midlife crisis. This, I believe, is them being themselves finally. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Oh, I was saying, I think that it is no coincidence that we're both in our 40s and we're having this conversation because I think until you have that life experience and you've tried the things that society says that you should have, and you've realized they haven't worked for you, you've got to get through all that experience to realize that, hey, maybe the script I was given is the problem and I'm not the problem. And so I've seen so many wonderful things about women who go through menopause, because I think menopause is another wonderful breaking point between who you were as the wife and the mother and then who you can be. I think a lot of women separate in midlife. And so they have the opportunity to ask themselves these questions. And something that I never expected this, especially given what I do, is when we look at older women, as women get older, we see a lot of women questioning whether marriage to a man has any place in their life anymore. There's this well-known fact that older women are much less likely to be married than older men. Why? Well, what people will tell you is because, nobody wants to marry an older woman while these older men can get these younger wives. This is not true. The fact of the matter is, most of those women aren't married because they don't want to be. And so this is what I want to ask you as we get older, as we find ourselves free, as we find ourselves claiming the life we want, what other possibilities, aside from marriage to a man, are out there for us?
It's really interesting because I'm like, the possibilities are always unlimited. It's our thinking. Like, first of all, the relationship that we have with ourselves, that shows up in our relationships with other people. So, how are we with the relationship with ourselves? Do we like ourselves? Do we actually like ourselves? Do we, we've all been sold stories that are not true, regardless of gender. We've all been sold these stories. And what if we stop buying into the rhetoric? And can our primary relationship be with ourselves? How would we behave, for example, if we already knew that we were enough? What would we do then? Like if we knew that our needs were valid and that we were already enough, exactly as we are, how would our day change? How would what we do change if we weren't trying to prove something to somebody? And often I believe that somebody is actually ourselves. Often. So I'm looking at your face and I'm like, is this making sense? I'm like, I'm like, can we bring it back to our personal responsibility for our lives? This is our lives we're talking about.
I
Whose
think
life
what you
is
said
it
there,
anyway?
that is the foundation of nonconformity, because one of the reasons that we really do buy into this idea that we need a man, and then we need to go the route of, long-term relationship, marriage, stay marriage, because if you divorce, it doesn't count. One of the reasons that we buy into that so much is because we are told that if we don't follow the rules and if we don't do what women do, if we don't stick to our gender roles, if we're not womanly enough, then we will be unloved. So they dangle, right? They meaning, society, they dangle love in front of us. And they say, you won't be lovable unless you follow the rules as we have set for you. But then when we listen to you and you say, actually, what if your primary relationship was with yourself? Suddenly, boom, the they out there who are dangling love as the prize suddenly have no prize for us because we've already got the love and we're never going to leave it.
Yes. And I think the really important thing about what you just said is we are also the they.
Yeah.
We are the they. Let's not make it about other people. It's us too. And I believe when I work with people, I'm like, can we be accountable for what is going on? Like what I also see is women being really mean to other women about this stuff. Like I see a lot of mistrust of women by women. I see mistrust of women and men. There's a lot of mistrust because I think a lot of people don't like this game, don't like this expectation. But it's also quite scary to put your head above and say it because you're going to get the good and the bad. And being a nonconformist and being a conformist, they all have their good and their bad. And, if we're talking about specifically about women, we are second class citizens in many parts of the world. Our rights are not the same. We may have made advancements, but they're not. It's not that recently that we've been able to, have the basic rights. These are still in our lifetimes. It's happening right now. So we have that to play with and work with. And of course, what happens is we compete against each other. And that's like, I want to be like, so there's a lot of stuff going on. And so I think that can we be compassionate with ourselves and each other and really go, wow, what if I really could? What would I want? And can I start like going there and having it?
And there's a great tool to look at what you want in relationships. And you introduced this to me. It's called the relationship anarchy smorgasbord. A little bit of a mouthful, but basically what it is, it's this table. It's broken down into 16 areas of relationships. They've got like friendship and romance and emotional support and touch and financial and domestic, every single aspect of a relationship. And then you get to negotiate which areas any particular relationship will cover. Do you have anything to say? Did I describe that well enough?
It was fantastic. So yes, so the relationship anarchy smorgasbord has been one of my favorite tools. I have been working with it for 4 or 5 years now. I love it. What I love about it is that it shows that there are at least 16 areas of relationship. Well, that's a news flash, isn't it? I think, for first of all, it's like, and there's something for me, I find it quite hard to express my needs. I find it quite hard to ask for what I want. I often don't know what I need. And so there's a lot of vulnerability in having that conversation, especially with the rhetoric that we've just been talking about, what we should be doing. So I love having something physical that's not me and not the other, a table that I can look at. And it basically, it's not about me and it's not about you. It's this. Can we look at this together? Because it can be less daunting and it's a conversation starter. It's like, for me, this is like the beginning of a conversation with some words and some like, wow, I know, but every single time I've showed this to somebody, they've gone, wow, I didn't think of it like that. I've never seen it broken down like that. And so just even that is like, oh, wow. Oh, like, I mean, it still works for me. I still use this.
What was really interesting to me when I saw that, and this was the big shocker for me. So we've got all these 16 areas of needs that can be met within relationship. And I think that's really important to say within relationship. We're not talking about within one single relationship or even within a romantic relationship. They're just the needs that we meet through relationship with other people. So this is the crazy thing. We believe that our romantic relationship with a man, we've been told this, has to meet all of those 16 needs. And what this tool allows you to do is to say, I have all these needs, but I can get them met in very different ways. I can get some of these needs met through my friends. I can get some of these needs met through other women. You can get the needs met by anyone, right?
Well, there is that. And I think this is fantastic because every time I show it to somebody, we look at it a different way. So my perspective on these is you don't have to want all these. So this is not 16 things that you should have. The question that I ask people is, which of these do you want for yourself? Forget about everybody else. Like one of the one, for example, is cohabitation. Do you want to live with somebody? I don't. I'd quite like to live somewhere part-time with somebody, but I don't want to live with somebody. So it's not necessarily, it's actually going, what actually are my needs here? And so one of the things is like, why are we trying to get one person to meet all our needs? Like, why would any person meet all one person's needs? I mean, we are essentially setting ourselves up to fail. Like, so why are we doing that? For me, it's a bit like trying to make a vegetarian go to the steak restaurant with you. Why would you do that? Please don't do that. Unless they really like the salads there, that's fine. But come on, can we stop making each other do things that we don't want to do? Please? Please. Can we? That's the, for me, that's a piece for me. We make people feel guilty and we carry shame about not being able to fulfill things that we never signed up to in the first place.
Now, you actually, in your coaching, you will take people through this. You also work with couples. So it's not a tool for single people to see what they want. It's also a tool for couples to improve their relationships. And that's just part of what you do. You've got online courses. You've got one coming up this week, which unfortunately we can't, it's going to be probably done by the time this interview airs. Tell us, you've also, you do trauma release, you do breath work. Just give us a teaser. You've got so much going on, and I would love people to know how they can work with you.
Okay. So I think I have lots of different modalities, but they're all essentially the same. Because what I want to do is I want people to feel less alone with who they are on the inside. I want them to be able to bring what's inside and may never have been spoken out in a space where it can be heard and validated, celebrated, regardless of what it is, so that they can integrate more the inside and the outside. And then, that goes into uncomfortable places, and then developing a language around being able to say, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I need.
So beautiful. Now, for those of you watching, do you want to connect with Sue? Do you want to find out about her online courses? Do you want to get on the list so that you know when her next book has come out? If so, then we have a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/Sue. So that's yourbrilliant.org/SUE to go find out everything about what Sue has to offer. Thank you so much, Sue, for coming onto the show. And I wondered if you had any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Yeah. The relationship that we have with ourselves shows up in the relationships with other people. And if we already know that we are enough and that our needs are valid, the possibilities are endlessly exciting.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And thank you, everyone out there, for watching. Now, what was your biggest insight or aha moment while watching this interview? If you feel comfortable, share it with us in the comments. And for more interviews like these, make sure to subscribe to Your Brilliance TV here on YouTube. And then come on over to yourbrilliance.com for more tips and insights on how you can live your most brilliant life. See you next time.